51st state and attacking Canada with the tariffs. That didn't come until this year. We can criticize about how it might have been planned or could have been communicated or pushed back differently from. But this narrative that Pierre blew a 25-point lead is just factually not true. He would have beaten Justin Trudeau by 20 points. Mark Carney was a different opponent, and there was a collapse in the New Democrats. So
yeah, but politics isn't fair. That happens. I mean, there has to be some ownership of the loss tonight.
No question.
I understand what he was saying about all that increase in support. It's very fair, but you didn't get past the finish line. You lost.
Correct, and that's what the next that's the coming few months will certainly be about where he fell short. But however, he had better results of any Conservative leader since I was 12 years old, and I'm 48, almost 49. and so but we count seats, we don't count votes, and the seats weren't quite there, and there's going to be a lot of assessment about how to close that gap on the seats.
Rona, you wanted to jump in. Can he stay if he loses his own seat?
Yeah, he's earned the right to stay. I mean, we heard him tonight. He's a great leader. He's a great parliamentarian. He reached out saying Canada first. We can work together to make sure, whether it's tariffs, Trump, whether it's on other issues, he'll put Canada first. He'll put Canadians first. He congratulated Mark Carney. And I think he's ready to get back into Parliament. Now, if he loses his seat, then it's a logistical thing of trying to find somebody giving up one for him. But as James said, he had a remarkable result tonight. And that's the way the seats play out. But he's earned his right to stay. He's very popular in the caucus, very popular in the party.
The last time, by the way, we had a similar dynamic to this was 2004. Stephen Harper, in his first campaign in 2004, we fell short. We thought we might beat the Liberals in 2004. Scott Reid remembers that campaign very well. We thought we might win that campaign, but we fell short. Stephen Harper, his leadership, he very quickly came out like this on election night and was very proud of the accomplishments that we had at that time, which was coming together and creating the Conservative Party to compete on a national basis. The dynamic of the fact that it was a minority parliament, at that time in 2004, the first minority parliament that we'd seen since 1980s, we weren't quite familiar with them. And the fragility of that minority parliament allowed Stephen Harper to very quickly get the caucus rallied back together. The relative fragility of this minority parliament and the closeness of seats might be one of those things that Pierre can point to and say, look, let me tell you what I learned from this campaign. Let me talk about our successes. Let me talk about why we fell short. But let's keep in mind, we have a narrow gap between this and when the next election may come. It may come at any time. I'm an experienced leader, and let me tell you how I'm going to close this gap so we can be successful next time. So the parallel historically could well be the 2004 loss of Stephen Harper.
I just want to do a slight pivot and go to our CTV's chief financial correspondent, Amanda Lang. I mean, if you're part of the business community in Canada, you're watching the result tonight, you know that it's a minority government situation, a liberal minority government situation. What are you thinking? I mean, does Donald Trump see this scenario as a weakness? And if you're part of the business community, how are you interpreting today?
Well, I will say this. The business community isn't a monolith, so they don't all vote as a bloc. They will vote Liberal, they will vote NDP, they'll vote Conservative, they'll vote Green. They do not like this result. As a monolith, I will say that. The business community and a lot of Canadians will feel this is an unstable result. But for businesses, and by that I don't just mean giant corporations, I mean mom and pop shops that have been frozen in place because of the tariff situation, including things like that $800 de minimis that hangs over us that will crush small businesses. This is a bad outcome, and the fact that we're talking now about the potential that we've lost one political leader and maybe the party status altogether. We won't know the results when we go to bed tonight. These seats are still shaking out, and yes, the uncertainty of, do we have a coalition? Can the Liberals and the Conservatives come together? Because there's no other math that is going to make sense for a fight against Donald Trump.
So it's uncertainty on
What are you talking about?
It's the compound factor, and by the way, that's all overlaid over the fact that
165 plus 7 plus 1
didn't talk enough about
is more than enough.
Sort of clouded by what's happening with Donald Trump and the trade war, and they are bigger and more important than that trade war. They'll last longer. We need to solve them. We all know what they are. It's not just housing affordability. It's growth. It's job
173
creation. What do we want
is
our,
over
our
a majority.
like? What will the jobs
Need one
be?
for the speaker.
Productivity, yes, I know, boring, but it's true. Those are still with us, so we need to solve them.
I just wanted to jump in and bring over Scott Reid. The numbers keep edging up for the Liberals. It's a very big minority. They're not far from 172. The finding of dance partners might not be as challenging as it looked 2 hours ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it narrows even more when we see all the advanced polls come in various ridings and so forth. This is definitely a solid minority. And that will give Carney as Prime Minister the flexibility in Parliament to figure out on a vote-by-vote basis who he collaborates with. There is no chance in God's green heavens that he is going to pursue a pact with the remaining NDP members. I mean, if one lesson can be withdrawn from the past parliament, it is that might not be the recipe for electoral success. So I don't think that that's going to be followed. I want to say something about Polyev, though, because it was a set of fascinating choices that he made this evening. Okay? First of all, he gave a victory speech, which, you know, we're going to say, well, maybe that was wise. But if you were looking to see whether in this parliament confronted by this crisis coming from Donald Trump, we were going to see any opportunity for collaboration between the Conservatives and the Liberals, you sure didn't see it in those remarks. He gave his stump speech and declared victory tonight. In loss, he declared victory, and he dedicated himself, just as James said, to the idea that it is just victory slightly delayed. We will just carry on, which signals that he will look for the first opportunity to defeat the government and to get himself elected as prime minister. And so all this talk of collaborative, that's about as collaborative as a bandsaw. That's not going to happen. He's not going to be collaborative. There's no indication of that. Second of all, he got out ahead of his riding, which makes sense. But it means that he obviously fears that he will lose his riding. And I agree with everyone here who said that he's going to have the hand to maintain his position, even if he loses his riding. But let's not pretend that that's a strong leader. That is a very weakened position. He then has to find a seat. He has to then defend the fact that he wasn't able to beat a novice who took over a party that was in disrepair. So I don't think this is the victory that Pierre Poilievre is portraying, and I don't see any sense of collaboration, and I do not smell the slightest whiff of humility.
I guess if you're only like 1% away or less than 1% away, though, from the popular vote, I understand what Scott's saying, but you do understand also how Poilievre and his party would feel like they're so close. Maybe it is just another election like in 2006, for example, or 2011, that kind of thing, right? I guess Scott's point is well taken, but if you're a point away from the Liberals...
If the national imperative is let's deal with Trump, but he's declaring that his imperative is to get elected as prime minister as soon as possible. Let's get 2004 and 2006 moving right now. That is not in concert with Canadians who want to see this try.
Forgive me. We've just got Diana Carney taken to the stage right now. Let's listen in.
Bonsoir Canada, and merci pour votre vote.
Hello Canada, and thank you for your vote.
I'm so grateful to you. Thank you for supporting your Liberal candidates. And thank you for choosing my husband's vision of a positive, unified, and above all, a strong country. Over the past few weeks, Mark and I have had the enormous privilege of meeting so many people across this great country. Everywhere we've visited, we've been energized by the passion, the commitment, and the kindness and belief that we have encountered. Not to mention the beauty and diversity of this amazing country. As we've traced a path from winter into spring, through all this, I've watched my husband listen and learn. I've watched him inspire confidence and take on new skills. But most of all, I've seen him remain true to what he's always been. Consistent, compassionate, loyal, and driven by an exceptionally strong set of values. We went to that dinner and he said to me, he stopped the conversation and he said to me, I want you to know I'm committed to move back to Canada and to work in the public service. So here we are. As his partner, I could not be more proud of him. And as a Canadian, I'm so thankful that the man I met more than 30 years ago has held tight to that strong commitment to service. I'm lucky to have him. We're lucky to have him now more than ever. Without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce my husband, the Prime Minister who will make Canada strong. And Canada for...
putting a PN behind me right there. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Tout le monde. Bonsoir.
It's a great evening.
Quel bonsoir. C'est une bonne bonsoir. I have a question. Who's ready? Who's ready? Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me? And who's ready? Who's ready to build Canada strong? Okay, we got that settled. That's good. Avant de commencer, je voudrais
Before
féliciter
beginning,
les autres chefs de parti
I'd like to congratulate the leaders of the other parties
et de tout le travail.
for their campaigns and for all their hard work.
Et merci pour leur service envers le Canada.
I thank them for their service to Canada,
Future.
now and in the future.
I want to thank the leaders of the other parties. I want to salute the contribution of Jagmeet Singh. I noticed his remarks. Yeah. Leading on progressive values. Elizabeth May, who will be returning to Parliament. Yves-François Blanchet. And I want to congratulate Pierre Poilievre on a hard-fought, fair, good campaign, his commitment to the country that we both love. They all have many, many more contributions to our land. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Diana, for your work on this campaign. Thank you, Diana, for the commitment and compassion you bring to everything that you do. Tonight, simply would not have been possible without you and without the support of our 4 children who inspire me to service every single day. I also want to salute the women and men who put their name on the ballot from all parties. Thank you for standing up to serve our country at this critical time. And for those who were elected, particularly those Liberals who were elected, I am looking forward to working together to deliver for Canadians. This is Bruce. And Bruce, yes, Bruce Van Joy. I'm looking forward to working with Bruce Van Joy.
That's the guy who beat Pierre Poilievre.
He will be a great MP. We're going to have fun tonight. Yes, we're going to have fun. Bien sûr. Je tiens à remercier les milliers de bénévoles.
I would like to thank
Ici ce soir.
the thousands of volunteers this evening here and across the country who gave their time, knocked on doors, made phone calls, and talked with their neighbors and members of their community.
Nous donner un gouvernement.
And they did this to give us a strong government.
You know, I chose to enter politics because I felt we needed big changes in this country. But big changes guided by strong Canadian values. Values that I learned at the dinner table from my parents, Bob and Verley, and from my siblings. I appreciate this more in retrospect from my siblings. My siblings, Brenda, Sean, and Brian. Values that I learned on the ice from my coaches. Values that have been reinforced as I've met with Canadians across this great country. And those include 3 values that I want to highlight this evening. Humility. It's Canada after all. Ambition. It's Canada after all. And unity. It's Canada. I love you. Right back. Right back. These are good values. These are Canadian values. Values that I will do my best. I'm just getting worked up here. These are values that I will do my best to uphold every day as your Prime Minister. You betcha. Okay, well, you have to judge after this next section because I am going to begin with the value of humility. And by admitting that I have much to be humble about. It's true. Over my long... That's not an applause line, it's just a statement of fact. Over my long career, I have made many mistakes, and I will make more. But I commit to admitting them openly, to correcting them quickly, and always learning from them. You know, humility underscores the importance of governing as a team in cabinet and in caucus, and working constructively with all parties across Parliament. Of working in partnership with the provinces and the territories, and with Indigenous peoples. And at this time, it underscores the value of bringing together labor, business, civil society to advance the nation-building investments we need to transform our economy. Humility is also about recognizing that one of the responsibilities of government is to prepare for the worst, not hope for the best. As I've been warning for months, America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen. But we also must recognize the reality that our world has fundamentally changed. There's also, for me, as I stand before you this evening, humility in recognizing that, well, many have chosen to place your trust in me, trust in the Liberal Party. Millions of our fellow citizens preferred a different outcome. And my message to every Canadian is this: no matter where you live, no matter what language you speak, no matter how you voted, I will always do my best to represent everyone who calls Canada home. You know, during this short campaign, I went to Saskatchewan and Alberta a couple of times, even though, you know, we're Liberals. It's tough. It's tough out there. I grew up. Yeah. But I went because I intend to govern for all Canadians. And au cours de cette campagne, plusieurs Québécois et Québécoises
During this campaign,
m'ont ouvert leurs portes,
Quebecers opened their doors to me and gave me their trust.
fondamentalement touchés.
And I'm deeply touched.
Merci.
And I thank you for that.
En français.
The French language,
La langue française, la culture québécoise.
the French language and Quebec culture are at the core of Canada's identity.
Définissent le pays.
They define the country that I love so much.
Je les défends sans.
And I will defend those tirelessly.
Avec la forte équipe de députés québécois.
With the strong team of Quebec MPs that you have just
Nous
sent to Ottawa.
que le Québec
Together we will ensure that Quebec continues to prosper within a strong Canada.
Et que vous soyez un travailleur des sables bitumineux
And whether you work in the tar sands in Fort Mac, a nurse in Joliette,
de Toronto, il y a
or an accountant in Toronto, there are many accountants in Toronto,
travailler pour
my government will work for you all.
As we come here after this most consequential election, let's put an end to the division and anger of the past. We are all Canadian, and my government will work for and with everyone. I began with humility, but Canadians are ambitious. And now, more than ever, it is a time for ambition. It is a time to be bold, to meet this crisis with overwhelming positive force of a united Canada. Because we are going to build, baby, build. Throughout. Well, no, we're building now. We've gotten over that bit. Throughout our history, there have been turning points. Throughout our history, there have been turning points when the world's fortunes were in the balance. That was the case at the start of the Second World War, just as it was at the end of the Cold War. And each time, Canada chose to step up, to assert ourselves as a free, sovereign, and ambitious nation, to lead the path of democracy and freedom, and, because we are Canadian, to do so with compassion and generosity. We are once again at one of those hinge moments of history. Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The system of open global trade, anchored by the United States, a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped deliver prosperity for a country for decades, is over. These are tragedies, but it's also our new reality. We are over the shock of the American betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons.
But you're going to take it forward.
We have to look out for ourselves, and above all, we have to take care of each other.
Yeah.
When I sit down with President Trump, it will be to discuss the future economic and security relationship between two sovereign nations. And it will be with our full knowledge that we have many, many other options than the United States to build prosperity for all Canadians. Nous allons renforcer nos relations.
We will strengthen our relationships with reliable partners in Europe, Asia, and elsewhere.
Ne veulent plus
And if the United States no longer wants to play
l'économie mondiale.
a top role in the world economy, Canada will do so.
Nous sommes maîtres chez nous.
We are masters of our own homes.
Des millions de logements.
We will build thousands of homes, an energy superpower, a good career in the specialized trades, and a single Canadian economy, not 13.
Because this is Canada, and we decide what happens here. We will need to think big and act bigger. Your phone's ringing. All right. Just hang on. It's okay? Yeah. That might be important. We will need to do things previously thought impossible at speeds we haven't seen in generations. It's time to build twice as many homes every year with an entirely new housing industry using Canadian technology, Canadian skilled workers, Canadian lumber.
Passive houses, Canadian technology made in Regina.
It's time to build new trade and energy corridors, working in partnership with the provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples. It's time to build hundreds of thousands of not just good jobs, but good careers in the skilled trades. It's time to build Canada into an energy superpower in both clean and conventional energy. And it's time to build an industrial strategy that makes Canada more competitive while fighting climate change. We will build one Canadian economy, not 13, with a government committed to free trade in Canada by Canada Day. The point is that we can give ourselves far more than the Americans can ever take away. But even given that, I want to be clear. The coming days and months will be challenging, and they will call for some sacrifices. But we will share those sacrifices by supporting our workers and our businesses. Les défis devant nous sont
The
intimidatants,
challenges ahead of us are intimidating, but that's normal.
comme ceux que nous vivons.
Big change, such as what we're going through right now, is always
Nous
a
avons
worry.
beaucoup de chemin à faire.
We have a lot of work to do,
J'ai confiance.
but I'm confident.
J'ai
I
confiance.
have confidence in you. I have confidence in Canada.
Because Canada is more than a nation. We are and we always will be a confederation. A sacred set of ideas and ideals built on practical foundations. That we know we're not always perfect, but we always strive to be good. We do things because they're right, not because they're easy. That we see kindness as a virtue, not as a weakness. Most importantly, we know that our strength lies in our resolve to work together as a country. It relies on our unity. You know, on the second day of this campaign, I went to Gander, where on 9/11, they welcomed thousands of passengers into their homes without question or hesitation. I sat down with two of the many heroes of the time, Diane Davis and Beulah Cooper. And during our conversation, they showed me a thank you card that they'd received from a young girl called Ellie, who wrote, "Your kindness motivates me to use my kindness." That touching phrase captures what Canadians instinctively know. That virtue is like a muscle that grows with its exercise. We become just by doing just acts, brave by doing brave acts. When we are kind, kindness grows. When we seek unity, unity grows. When we are Canadian, Canada grows. And united over our history, we have done hard, seemingly impossible things. United, we have built one nation in harsh conditions, despite a sometimes hostile neighbor. Yes, they have form on this, the Americans. United, we have confronted our own past with Indigenous peoples. Unis, nous avons bâti un pays qui
United,
rassemble
we
les
have
langues
built a country
et les
that
croyances,
brings together languages, cultures, and beliefs that are all different.
institutions culturelles
United, we've built
comme
essential cultural institutions such as CBC Radio-Canada.
United, we have created universal public health care. And now, in the face of this crisis, united, we are buying Canadian. We are exploring everything this country has to offer. We are supporting our friends and neighbors in the crosshairs of President Trump through a crisis that we did not create. United, we will win this trade war and build the strongest economy in the G7, an economy that works for everyone. Au cours des derniers mois, les Canadiens
Over the last few months,
ont fait leur part
Canadians have done their part.
pour défendre notre pays.
They have come together to defend our country and our way of life.
Lorsque nous sommes
I
menacés,
promise,
nous allons nous battre
when we are threatened, we will fight
with everything we have to get the best deal for Canada. We will protect our workers and businesses, and above all, we will build an independent future for our great country. A future that makes the greatest country on the earth even better. Together, we will build a Canada worthy of our values. We will build Canada strong, Canada free, Canada forever. Vive le Canada. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Carney in Nepean at the headquarters there, and really getting to keep his job essentially, but this time with the mandate of the people, pledging to be a prime minister for all Canadians, not just Liberals and National. He talked a lot about building obviously got to build bridges with members of the other parties now, especially in a minority situation, and also has to build bridges with Donald Trump.
Yeah, or attempt to, I guess, something like that. He did say, I remember when he dropped the writ, or in particular after that conversation with Donald Trump last month, that on day one after the election, basically you would then be looking at entering into negotiations with Trump ASAP. So a lot in that speech about what that plan looks like, very similar to what we heard on the campaign. Let's go to Heather Butts with some more details on how these seats are kind of rolling out right now.
Ashley, thank you so much. We're going to look at those seats right across the country. An incredible night there for the Liberal leader, Mark Carney. There he is. Just a great experience for him, and accepting that congratulations from people at his campaign office there at his celebration party. I'm joined by our pollster, Nick Vanos.